Okay, so this is my Massey 1984 240. So what we're going to try and do, I've already taken the hood off. We're going to try and get these injectors, figure out what's going on with them. So basically what I'm having going on right now is that my cylinder 1 doesn't seem to be firing either completely or at all. We're not really sure yet. So we're going to take and loosen up the lines going into each injector, so we can see how much it changes the sound of the engine, and then we'll probably end up pulling that injector out, test and see what compression is in underneath of it, and see if we can't diagnose what's going on. As far as tools you're going to need, so basic hand tools, going to need a crescent wrench, half-inch socket, 11/16 and half-inch wrenches. A torque wrench is probably the most important thing that maybe you wouldn't have. The crow's feet also are nice for working with injector lines, because you can get them around the line and then be able to loosen stuff up, getting a little better contact. Obviously a regular socket won't fit on there with the injection line on there. So what we're looking at in here is, so these three are our injectors. So you've got injector for cylinder 1, cylinder 2, and then cylinder 3. So cylinder 1 is the one we're having an issue with right now. There has been some work done on this already. There was a leak happening, so that's why this line here is a new line that came in. We're still having a leak with the injector pump, but we're going to try and sort that out after we figure out this issue we have going on right now. So hopefully it's just the injector is bad. We'll get it all taken apart and let you know how it goes. Okay, so the last time we were working on this, we were trying to get the hood and the tank off so we could get in and mess with these injectors. So we're hoping that it's just the injectors is the problem. We know that we had an issue with cylinder 3 here that wasn't firing properly. So we went ahead and started it up and then slowly loosened the lines going into each of the different injectors to see how it changed the sound of the engine. There's several YouTube videos out there showing how to do this, but it was tough to film and do that at the same time. But basically we went through cylinder 1. If you disconnected it, it made a big change. The engine would almost stall. Reconnected cylinder 1's line. Same thing with cylinder 2. Got to cylinder 3, it made a small change, but not a big change. So we knew we had something going on there. So we went ahead and pulled out the injector. There's just a couple bolts that bring that out. And I went ahead and ordered a new one. That rather. So over here, this just came in today. So we're gonna get that injector put in and then start it up and see if that cleans up the issue. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, then we'll keep digging a little further. With that, also went and got, because I didn't have it at the place I got the parts, I went and did get a little brass washer that goes down into where the injector drops in. So right down, actually in that hole there. I don't know if you can see down in there very well, but that sits right down into there. So that's what we're going to drop that down in, reconnect all the lines, and then again see what happens. So today I'm working by myself, so I will set up the tripod and see what we can do. Okay, so we'll see what we got here. Also got a new radiator cap. The radiator cap for this is just had some cracking, and the washer that runs around it, that rubber washer, was all broken up. So figured it made sense to go ahead and switch that out while we were ordering parts anyways. New one seems to be a little bit different style, so we'll see how that works. It actually feels a lot better on there, so hopefully that gives us a little bit better seal. We weren't having an issue there, but figured it was worth fixing at the same time. So I definitely recommend when you're taking stuff apart, I like putting stuff in bags and just doing little labels. So this says injector. Hunting through screws is no fun. So definitely make sure whenever you take nuts or screws or anything off, you actually label what it came off of. It makes it a whole lot easier when it comes to reassembly. Also, make sure when you're tightening these down, you definitely want to tighten them down nice and evenly. You want to make sure it sits in there nice and flush. So I'm just hand tightening right now. Okay, so before I tighten that down all the way, we're just going to get this line here just started. Make sure not to force it. It's just these can be tough to get going once this gets tightened down too much. Okay, so now that I have this line started, these are hand tight. I'm just going to start tightening them down lightly, a little bit further. It's a 1/2 inch socket, by the way. Okay, now that they're snug, you're gonna get the torque wrench. So there's nothing in the manual showing the exact torque specs. I've heard people say you want 15 to 20. I saw somebody else who was doing a similar rebuild that had it up at 29. I'm gonna do at the 29. I think his logic made a lot of sense. Most of the other stuff in the engine was also set to 29. Again, with this, it's very light. It's going back and forth, so you can make sure to get it set evenly down in there. So just a little bit on each. Got the click. And we know we're good. So, other bag, injector assembly. Okay. Okay, so we're going to tighten down the line going into the injector. Other two should be good. We didn't mess with those. We're going to tighten down these tops. These are 7/16. This is for the return line on the fuel. Okay, those are all snugged down. We're going to put this assembly back in. Nice and straight. Making sure you don't force it. You want to make sure you're not cross-threading. Okay, that's nice and snug down. Okay, so that's all tight. back together. Now we need to get the fuel tank back on and then prime the fuel through there, and we're ready to test it out. Okay, so that definitely would have been easier with a second person, but that went in pretty well. Just trying to make sure we get it lined up with these bolts in the back to hold it in place. Okay. And my bag showing me which bolts are for the fuel tank. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure you label stuff and keep everything organized. These are 1/2 inch as well. Then I have the main line here that comes off the back. Okay, so over here what I just did was just hook back up the line that comes in to this little priming pump. I had stuffed a rag into the air intake because to get this line across, you had to have this out of the way. So now I'm just gonna hook that back up. Okay, so this here is the pump for the fuel. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the fuel on back on the other side, and then wanting to put a little bit of fuel back in here, I'll pump this, and then we'll actually be having the camera on the other side so you can see as I'm bleeding the air out of the lines and out of the filters on the other side. But that will be the pump I'll be using right there. So this is 11/16 here. We're gonna open this up and then make sure we can get our fuel line filled up. So just pumping the one over here until I hear it leak. And there we go. So got fuel coming up through here. get as much air out of there as we can. Okay, so we're going to repeat that same process on this other pump, or filter rather, here as well. So it's already pretty full, which is good. Get that started. Those are all tight. Fuel lines are all back in and on. Returns are on. Okay, so what I just did there was loosened up the injector and created a little fuel leak, and it did change the sound. So instead, that injector is firing better, which is really good news. Okay, so last we talked, we were just getting the new injector put in, and then seeing how much of a change that made. I've been running the tractor a little bit since then. It definitely seems to be running a lot better. Before, I was getting very little heat on this side of the exhaust manifold, which is where cylinder 1 runs off of. Now both sides are warming up. It sounds a lot better. So looks like maybe we have fixed the issue, fingers crossed. So the next project, again, like we talked about earlier, I'm gonna try and get that injector pump taken apart. I'm hoping I don't have to take it off the engine completely, because then I'll have to mess with timing and everything. But if you just take off the top cap, you can get to a lot of the components and get to this paper gasket without having to mess with the timing. So that's what I'm hoping for.